I'll just do comments on here.
Angle this down a little bit. Hey guys, good morning.
Hey, I'm just figuring out comments on my phone, making sure that we're live. And I don't know why it says it's waiting for Jami Ray Vintage, so let me try it again. I'm like, I am Jami Ray Vintage. I am live. Sorry about the late notice on the live video. This last month of owning a shop has been insane. I feel like last night I was talking to my shipping girl and I was like, I'm not sure I can do this. I woke up this morning and I realized I can do this. I put my big girl panties on, but it has been nuts. I went live in our Facebook group hoping to make sure more people got the notice. So hopefully it gets out to everybody next month. We'll try to be a little bit more on top of it. And speaking of which, Zeb is going to be working on the chapter today, so hopefully we can get that up by the end of tomorrow. I appreciate your patience.
We've been waiting because we wanted to get a little more info on like our actual experiences of the opening of a shop, and we won't have like the grand opening stuff in there, but we'll talk about what we're going to be doing for that, because some people just, when they open, they just do a grand opening, but we wanted to get the doors open sooner than we had scheduled, so.
Well, I always thought it was weird when people did soft openings and grand openings, but now that I own a shop, I'm so glad I did that because it allows my employees will be trained before like the crazy amount of people show up, and it's also giving me more time to get things ready and perfected. Everybody's just saying hi. We are going to be talking today about events. So whether you're putting on a market or an event in your shop, Zeb is the guy behind the scenes doing all the legwork to the physical stuff, and I'm the person who's doing all the promoting and sharing and running events. And it's probably going to be a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, because I feel like this grand opening, I haven't really given as much thought to it as I would have liked, but it's going to help. It's one of those things when you prepare to talk about something, then it gets you motivated to do better at what you actually need to do. So that's kind of how I'm at with getting this grand opening going. Let me just make sure that
It's kind of like giving a speech or a talk or a presentation. Once you dive into becoming an expert at that and actually teaching people how to do it, then you're like, oh, I really needed this topic because I'm not doing all this stuff.
Yeah, we have to give talks at church, and I feel like sometimes that's what happens there too. And we should probably close this curtain because.
Oh, did we not get the curtain closed?
There we go. It's a little bit messy. The whole Dion from the Turquoise Iris posted a picture of her studio the other day, and I told Zeb, I'm like, it was so pretty. Our studio is hot messy, but maybe it'll have to get pretty by grand opening because we are doing a class. So let's get right into it. I'm first going to talk about, and I will look for questions when I have a breaking point. I want to talk about putting on events like markets, not necessarily grand opening or classes. We'll talk about those in a little bit. Those of you guys might not know, but Zeb and I own another business called Reclaimologist and Other Crafty Chicks.
So we like to make it an acronym. We inherited that name.
Yeah, it's ROCC. When we first took it over, we don't do it anymore because life has changed. However, when we first took it over, we put on huge markets, like 2,000 or 3,000 people came to our biggest market that we ever had, and we had about 50 vendors. So we also have videos on that, so Zeb will drop the link below for those so you guys can watch those.
Granted, they're older videos, but
yeah.
You know, the info's good.
The info, yeah, they are a little older, they're a little scary, but
and some of them are just kind of like a tour.
Yeah, I think that's basically what's on there. But what we do is we start out, usually when we're doing a big event that has about 50 vendors, we usually start in advance prepping 6 months. 6 months out from the event. It takes that long to get things going. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put pen to paper and figure out where you're going to hold the event, how many people you anticipate coming to your event, how many vendors you're going to have at your event, and are you going to charge an entry fee or not? Make sure you check with local municipalities for parking and permits that you may be required when you're having an event. When we did our event, we started out at the Veterans Building, so we didn't need a permit there, and then we moved over to a much bigger, much more expensive venue called Thanksgiving Point, and we did it at the Show Barn, so I never had to worry about those kinds of things. I did have to get a permit from the city, like a sale, I can't remember, something from the city. And then I also had to carry liability insurance, so that's something to keep in mind. Depending on your event, I think we carried a $2 million policy and it cost us about $300.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It cost $300 for the whole event, and if anything happened, we were covered. So
Well,
it was good to have.
Our venue required that we have it, but that's something behind the scenes that people don't really think of. Even if your venue doesn't require it, if you're doing an event where thousands of people are coming, you need to carry liability insurance. We currently, like on this building, we carry liability insurance because we carry it for our business, so that carries over to any events that we have here. But when you're just throwing like a one-time event, you might not think about that, so that's something that's important. Once you do that and you think of the theme, you need to think of the kinds of booths you're going to have. Some events are boutique type events where there's a bunch of MLMs there, and that's totally fine. But if you're wanting to be more of a vintage flea market type, then you need to make sure that in your advertising for vendors, which you're going to start about 6 months in advance, that you're letting them know, we are only wanting these types of people at this event, because the people you allow to come into your event are going to create the whole vibe. As much as you try to prepare, if you have the wrong people coming in and people feel like they thought they were coming to a vintage market, and then flip side, oh, people are selling vitamins to them, they may not be super happy about that.
Yeah, they're coming to look at like home decor and stuff. Well, where our markets were concerned.
Yeah, every market is different. Like we were known, so ours had to be nothing like mass produced. There could be mass produced stuff, but they had to have like handmade stuff. And it couldn't be like a solid booth of like crap they ordered from China. Like that, I don't care if they have a mix of that in there, but it had to be like, if there was clothing, it had to be designed by that person. Or if it was like jewelry, as long as it had to be designed by the person. That worked out really well to get us some really unique vendors.
So we're talking about actually running and putting on events and things like that, but we're hoping to tie that into just even having a booth at some of these events and having like classes and things, because the promotion for a class, if you've got like a big class coming up, it works the same.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of like prep that goes involved in that. So now we've talked about who you're going to get. How do you get vendors at your event? So you're going to promote it on your business page, on Facebook pages and groups that will allow it, and you need to make sure that you set up a Facebook group for just your vendors, and I'll tell you why. What I did was I would tell them, okay, if you want to be a vendor, once I approved them, here's the group, and I would put them in there. And when we would get closer to the event, or I was ready to promote my event, or I set up the event page, which I set up the event page usually like 3 months before the event. So, but this group page is set up from the beginning. That way I can coach all my vendors. Okay, the event page is up, please share. And I actually screenshot the event page with my little finger. I use like the drawing app on my phone and say, this is how you share the event. This is how you share and invite your friends. And I would ask them to invite their friends personally, because if you click share on an event, you can either just share the event itself, or you literally can go in and click friends to invite, and they will get a notification about the event. That is probably hands down the single best advertising you can do, is to ask your vendors or family and friends or whoever, and do it yourself. Go in and individually click and invite friends. I actually haven't even made it through all of my friends list for my grand opening coming up. But sometimes you have to show people how to do that. So having a group page set up for your people coming is really helpful, because you can coach them. You can even go live and then show them, this is how you need to do that. Another thing that we would do, now we've got our vendors, we've got our group page set up, we're having them invite their friends. How do you grow that event page? We would ask our vendors if they would be interested in a giveaway, something that would help promote them so people coming would know what they're selling. And I would share it not just on the event page, but I would share it on all my social media, which they liked, because that got them out in front of way more people, because I have a good, following. And what we would do is about 2 months before the event, weekly we would do giveaways that had to be picked up at the event. So that gets people coming to the event, it gets people excited, and we would ask them to invite 5 friends and just comment and let us know when they've done that. I know that Facebook has some strict rules on that, so you may want to check the guidelines. I haven't done it for a while, but we would get our event, too much talking, hold on.
Slow down, Jamie.
we would get our event. Well, it's kind of the nitty gritty, boring stuff. But
Yeah, we're gonna race through this and get to the fun stuff.
we would get our event page up to like a couple thousand people saying they were coming. And usually a good rule of thumb is how many ever people say they're coming, about 50% are gonna show up. So you really need to get the word out there. And the thing about the event page is it will remind them if they click going that they have an event that day. So it's not enough to just say we're doing this market. The reason why you need an event page is because you need people to click going. That way it reminds them, it gives them directions. You can even pre-sell tickets through, is it Eventbrite?
Yeah, that's what we used.
I think it's called Eventbrite, and you can put the link, Facebook will allow you to add that link in there. So hopefully that really helps you out. Also, what I think is really important to help people be successful is asking them to send photos of what they will be bringing and let them know they can't pre-sell, it has to come to the event, and then you can post those photos on the event page. So that way people come ahead of time knowing what to expect, and literally we would have people come to our events, they would be in trucks and trailers and a list of all the vendors they wanted to go to and what they wanted to buy, and they would be like checking it off. So they come pre-qualified, ready to shop.
And we would get people from 3-4 hours away, people coming from Idaho, Vegas. Vegas is 5 hours from us, so like they would travel a long way because our events got to be known for like vintage furniture. And once the word got out, people were really searching for those specific unique items, and our vendors really had a lot of great success. And after the first one, we were able to sign up pretty much everybody that came to the first one and fill up our event like as soon as we posted that spaces were available.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing. Now that we've already talked about having a Facebook group for your vendors, it's a good way to like keep connected with them and get them motivated and remind them about maybe park here, do this, do that. When you have your next event, you go back to that Facebook group and say, hey, my event's open. Who wants to sign up for my event? And you can also take past event pages, like you know how you set up separate from the group, you've got your event page going up. You can go in and you can announce, hey, join this event, we've got our next market coming up. And so you can really remind people they enjoyed it before and they can come back. Same thing with your group page. Hopefully this all makes sense. I know that this is kind of a lot to take in. So if you have questions about groups or event pages, comment below. I can even possibly show you from my phone and I'll let you know like how to set it up. You can also Google how to set up a Facebook group, how to set up a Facebook event, and there's very detailed tutorials out there that are probably more advantageous to what I'm gonna teach you. One of the things I also wanted to touch base on is that I used TV media for free promotion. And I'll tell you, I know everywhere is different, but here in Utah we have daytime TV shows. And if you are someone who has a craft to teach, you can usually email the producer. Now you can pay to get on the shows, or you can do something that is like a segment for them and usually get free advertisement. And I would contact the producer, hey, I have a show coming up. I'm willing to come onto your channel and teach blah, blah, blah. And you have to have a super fast, stepped out tutorial because you only have like 3 or 4 minutes to teach something that takes, an hour. So you have to have it stepped out, TV magic. But then they would allow me to say, hey, and I have a market coming up if you're interested, and I would promote my markets on TV. So it was free advertising on TV, and that really helped a ton get the word out there. And my vendors loved it because they're like, hey, this girl's going on TV to promote this event, and it cost me $0, and I was able to get that out of there. We also did radio.
It gave our event a lot of street cred.
Yeah, for sure. We did radio advertising. Sorry if you're in radio advertising, but that was not worth my money. Flyers at local boutiques, having an awesome event page with giveaways going on, and TV media was my 3 best options as far as promoting my event. And then once you're at the day of the event, like the night before, schedule out time and go live. I would go live the night before and give previews of all the booths on the event page, and people would get so excited. And I let my vendors know, hey, make sure that you've got something set up if you can do night before. If you can't do night before, do a few hours before, whatever. But just say at this time, I'm gonna go live, I'm gonna be promoting the event, and I wanna let you know that I've got this going on. And I would do that, and that was huge. And we never really had any training when we got reclaimologists. It kind of just got thrown at us.
Yeah.
And we tried a bunch of different things, but that worked out amazing, and I loved it. Okay, let's see. Hopefully that's interesting to you. If you have questions on that, let me know. Next, let's talk about grand opening events. So it's going to be similar. You probably won't have vendors, but things you need to keep in mind of, parking. I'm currently trying to talk to the vacant lot next to us to see if we can park there. They're really hard to get a hold of, but we do have a lot of street parking. Next thing you got to make sure is, do you have enough bathrooms? We have a bathroom here, and I'm going to talk to the building next to us and see if they have one as well. I don't think they'll mind people coming in. Let people know around you when your event is. So I've already contacted the yard art people that are next to us and let them know that we will be having an event October 26th. They're going to want to be stocked and make sure somebody's there to work because they will inevitably get business as well.
Yeah, people walking by will pop in their shop, or they'll use the bathroom. They'll be like, oh, I like this.
Yeah, so you always want to let your neighbors know you're having an event, and secondly, if they've got a bathroom, see if you can, hook up on that situation. If not, if you don't have enough bathrooms or something that works well, you're going to need to think about porta-johns. I feel like I've got a good bathroom here. If I can get them on board with letting us use their bathroom, 2 bathrooms is sufficient for my event. But nothing is worse than being at an event and then some people don't have a way to go to the bathroom. Like, you don't want
It's a good way to get people to leave and they don't come back.
Yeah, and then they're upset. So think of it like hostessing a party at your house. Like, you want your guests to feel welcome. Secondly, you need to, if it's going to be something that people will be there for an extended amount of time, you might want to consider having a food truck or some sort of booth with food sales there. That was always something that was difficult at Thanksgiving Point because they would not allow it.
us to have
We got to do it one time, and then after that, they said no more food.
Because we had to have like a special license, and then they also have food there, so they wanted to sell their food to everybody.
Yeah, and they couldn't even accommodate the thousands of people that came. So finally one year they let us have a food person there, and that was awesome. And that food person raked it in. If you want to get a food person, the nice thing about having an event page is you can say, look at my event page. All these people say they're coming. That gives you a little bit more leverage with actually getting someone willing to risk having a truck at your event, because if they don't know if people are coming, you're not going to be able to get as good of a food truck. So we're already contacting, well, by we, I mean Caitlin, because she's awesome, is contacting some food trucks to get them here for our event, because there's not a lot of restaurants right where we're at. People would have to leave around about 5 minutes to get somewhere to eat, so we want to make sure that they're taken care of. All right, people are talking about the weather, so hopefully I'm not boring you guys with my event planning. Another thing that's awesome to do is a giveaway swag bag. So you might want to think about that at your next event if you're doing a grand opening or a party, or maybe even if you've been open for a while, have a little party for the new season. Like, get a bunch of product ready for the fall or Christmas, and maybe close down a couple days, reset the whole shop, and have a huge event showing off all the new seasonal things. Build some excitement. Really, there's no wrong or right way to have an event or a party. You can do it for any reason, and people will come as long as it's exciting.
Yep.
Well,
and they get excited about stuff. Like, if you're giving away a swag bag, the first 25 people through the door or whatever, you're going to have 100 people show up and try to get that first 25 bags.
And you need to share what's going to be in it. So in my swag bag, I know for sure everybody's getting a Jami vintage chapstick, and then I ordered these little tiny, like 2-ounce cups, and I'm going to be giving away samples of paint. I can't afford to give everybody an 8-ounce sample because that's a $13 sample, but I can take a quart, which is 32 ounces, and divide that up into 16 samples. And if I'm only doing away 25 grab bags, then I only need like a little over a quart's worth of paint to fill all the grab bags with a sample. I might do 2 samples, I haven't decided.
We'll see if I get to it. I'm also going to try to work up a keychain that you can only get here in Lehigh shop. That will be fun. We'll see if that happens or not.
Yeah.
I still haven't made name tags for all of our people that work here.
Well, and if you have a bigger event, like if you have vendors at an event, Painters Conference does this, Queen Bee Market does this. They actually contact their vendors, and the vendors give them stuff to put in the grab bags just for the promotion. and it doesn't cost them anything. So if you're doing a large event, definitely reach out to your vendors and see if there's something small they could throw into that grab bag. Pinners Conference, like I said, Pinners Conference does it, and Queen Bee Market, if you've ever heard of them, they're in California and Vegas, they do that as well. And the grab bags get people excited and make them wait in line. And when you have a line, like, so we used to get this too. We would do early birds. We would charge extra for early bird tickets, like, I don't know, like $5 extra, and they could come in an hour early. And people would be, 100 people would be lined up waiting for us to open the doors. And that kind of excitement gets sales because they got to get it before somebody else gets it. And when you have an event like a grand opening or a seasonal reveal that you've got going on, you want to build excitement. So if you do these grab bags, even if you can't get anybody to give them stuff for free, you're going to spend that money, but you're going to get that money back because people are going to be excited to be there. And when there's excitement, there's money. There's money to spend out, you know? Like,
well, it also creates like a sense of urgency. Like they only have an hour to go look at all the booths and get first pick of all the good stuff. So people are buying.
Katie says, I asked Doug if I could sneak away for a mini vacay to attend our grand opening, but it's $2,500 for a return flight from Toronto to Utah. That's a little bit spendy. Chris DeRoche says...
We could probably ship you a lot of stuff for that.
Yeah, Chris says that she wants to come, but it's her anniversary. She's wondering if her husband would mind. You know, after you've been married for 19 years, you can celebrate it like, you know, whenevs. What did we do for our anniversary this year?
We were working on the house, and I think we eventually got out to dinner, but I don't know.
I don't remember. We're going to France. We're celebrating 2 months later.
Yeah.
All right, Lehigh's only a 9-hour drive from Anthem. Let's see. Just making sure I'm answering all your questions. But yeah, so that's one of the things. Oh, okay. So let's talk about checkout. That's important. So at our events, everybody checked out at the vendors. They did pay to get in because it was a very well curated market and people would pay to get in the door, and that's where we made most of our money. And I had 2 iPads set up, one on each entrance, and we had it down to a science where they could like swipe, pay cash over here, get their stamp, and go. People do not want to wait, especially when they're excited. If you're doing an event in your shop, make sure that you have multiple ways for people to check out. So we've got a square system in here with our POS, but we will also order, which I need to do today, an extra swiper, so that way I can have somebody doing card-only transactions, and we can have 2 lines. We also have a scanner, and we will make sure that by then everything is scannable. That makes that so much faster. So always be thinking about the courtesy to your customers. They don't want to wait in line where you're typing stuff in, or because if there's enough people working that you can have 2 people checking out, definitely make sure that you have that ready to go.
Speaking of which, do we need to get another scanner?
No, we don't need another scanner. They could type it in for the card-only transactions.
Okay.
But I'm going to make sure we have another swiper ahead of time. So if we'll have like an express line. If you're just buying a couple things card-only over here, multiple things card and cash over here, and then that way we can just keep people moving. And actually they can go through the line too. You can either have 2 lines set up, or you can have 1 line, and then the person with the card reader can literally just go down the line and help people out that have just a few items. So whatever works. I know that I got this idea from Nordstrom Rack. I know that you think sometimes my shopping isn't the best option, but
I thought it was going to be in and out. How
No.
you know they like
Oh,
they take your order and then you pay at the one
yeah,
spot.
well, it's kind of like that, except for at Nordstrom Rack, instead of making people wait in line during the busy times, they'll have separate kiosks set up, and you can go if it's a card-only transaction, or they'll go up and down the line with their little scanner, and they can check you out, which is awesome. Oh, you mentioned yesterday you're having to take a break from your house. You're just curious as to why. My husband is loving all of Zeb's videos. Every day he comes home and asks if one's uploaded. That one's you.
So we were having some issues with the way the addition was going to meet up with the old house, because we have to put a little bit of the roof out over the old house, and we got a structural engineer to come look at it because we get a lot of snow load up here. It can weigh thousands of pounds on the top of your roof with 8-10 inches of snow. So he came out and he's like, oh yeah, we can't put the addition roof over here and support that, because then the old part of the house will cave in. So he's re-engineering that. We're going to have to do some reinforcing on the roof in a couple of places, which we would have had to do anyway even before we took out all the ceiling joists, and then we can submit to the city for plans. So we're like, I need to get that done really before we put the kitchen in or electrical or anything else. So we're kind of just on hold until we get those plans back. He says next week, which I hope happens, so we can at least get a couple more videos out before we go to France. So.
Yeah, we're hoping to do some more and get submitted to the city for permits. So that's what's going on with the house. There are some other things that we can and will be doing. Our glass guy, I gotta contact him and get the glass put in the front door. Maybe I'll paint the front door. That'll be something fun we can check off our list. That's not structural that we can go ahead and do in the shop. So I'm taking, or in the house, I'm taking full advantage of this time though, and Zeb has a
I've been doing lots of shop projects.
Yeah, he has a hit list of things that I could do, but he's better at, so we're gonna be working on those over the next few days. Salt Lake City from Lehigh, about 30 minutes. If there's traffic.
There's a tram down here too.
Yeah, it could be upwards of an hour. There's actually a train that goes from the airport to Lehigh, and then
there's hotels close to
the
station.
There's lots of, Lehigh's a big city. It's probably, what, 75,000? I mean, not huge, but it's a big city. And the way Utah works is there's one freeway that goes right down the middle. So like to get to Salt Lake, you get on the freeway that's right down the street from our shop, and you just drive straight up and you're in Salt Lake, and you don't have to take a bunch of craziness. The airport, you do have to take a left off the freeway to get to the airport, but it's not far. And it's all one big city. So like Salt Lake City to Lehigh, if you're on the freeway, there's no like gap.
Well, there's a big mountain ridge that runs across that's like 11,000 feet high right next to the valley. So the freeway runs along the valley, and all the houses are packed in the valley there. So right along the mountain range. So it's all right here from like Provo to Ogden. There's like 2 million people that live in maybe a 60-mile distance.
One of the things I want to talk about that I didn't talk about, when you have your first event, make sure you take plenty of well-staged photos and maybe even some video. And then the next time you have that event, you can use that video footage and the photos to help promote it and give people an idea of what to expect. I know a lot of big markets do that. Vintage Market Days does it, and so does Market Beautiful. They're kind of big out here. They do pictures and things, and it helps promote them. So definitely that. Next thing we're going to talk about is classes. We're actually not going to have classes here until January, just to give us time to get through the holiday rush and the craziness. But if you want to do classes, you need to A, come up with your own samples, please. For the love of all that's holy. Do not go on Pinterest, take somebody else's picture, and then pre-sell class tickets on something you didn't even make.
Yeah.
First of all, it's annoying to creators because they're like, I did that, you didn't. Second of all, you want to make sure that the people know exactly what they're going to get. If that wasn't your product, you might not be able to create the exact same product. And when people show up and they're not making the same thing, and the sample you have doesn't look like the picture you used, it's not a good situation.
No.
Not at all. So first, do your own samples, take some well-staged photos, and then start promoting. And you can even offer like giveaways to help people get excited about it. I would say, I don't know, I always like about a month in advance before a class. Debbie and I are actually going to be doing a class here the Monday after our grand opening, and I may even open it up to 2. And I have to start promoting now because we're almost a month out, so give people time to get there. I know that Dion usually does 2 or 3 months out. She's way better than I am because she has people that fly in for her classes. So if you're planning on coming, just know that on Monday there will be a class offered. So if you want to stay until then and fly out Tuesday, we're going to be offering those classes. I don't like to do classes on days that I have big events because it's a lot of stress on me and I get really sweaty and nervous. So I suggest knowing yourself. So if you're going to have a huge event with a lot of people, maybe don't schedule a class that same day. Also consider how long you will be at that event. So like our grand opening will be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. But Zeb and I and Debbie and Karen will only be here from noon to 4 for a few reasons. One, because then we can make sure that we've eaten and we're not here for 6 hours without eating. And 2, so that way we're not just worn out. Because I love meeting people, it's super fun, but after about 4 hours, I'm exhausted. Zeb could do it for days, he's much better than me, but I kind of have to limit it because
all those years in retail.
Yeah, for sure. And make sure you give yourself downtime. So because we're doing the grand opening for our shop on Saturday, Sunday is our day off, and then Monday we'll come back and we'll do the classes. And I might set up 2 2-hour classes with Debbie and I, where we teach something and then have a little something that people in the class are making so they can take that back with them. So we're excited about that. I wasn't planning on initially doing a class, but Debbie was really like, you need to do it. Everybody's going to want it. And so we're going to try it out. Utah's different. Classes here, this is like a DIY central. So classes here don't make as much money as classes other places, but there are some people that make good turn on classes that they teach. So I'll have to try out some new things in January, and we'll do another video in like March, and I'll tell you how my classes are going.
I'm running out of things to paint. We painted a ton of stuff yesterday. We have lots of big stuff to paint, but not little stuff.
Cobweb Afternoon says our local news has a list of community events for the weekend. For sure, contact your local news stations, let them know what you're doing, get them excited. If you have to pay, just be careful that you don't spend too much money on advertising, because that'll eat up your profit margin. But you do need to advertise. You got to put the feet to the ground, so to speak, and really get out there and promote your event. All right, do we have any more questions? Oh, Renee says Pinterest bust. Yeah, don't use Pinterest photos for your classes unless they're yours. All right, Deb, why don't you talk about the behind the scenes? Because I feel like I'm losing mine. Because it's all like you know how we used to have people that would help get things out of the event and places to put things while they're shopping.
So at the events, we'd always have like a little place to put stuff, and we would hire people to help load and unload, and a lot of times that fell on me, because if you've got big pieces of furniture at your event, or even in your booth, you need to either line someone up that can help you, or find someone at the market that's willing to be like, hey, that's a friend or something, and have them help you carry stuff out. Because if you've got a huge hutch in your booth at a market and no way to get it to the person's car, you're out of luck. Either the sale will fall through, or
and it's not the time to wait until last minute and ask
Yeah.
your booth neighbor to move it for you. Like, you need to plan in advance.
Yeah, like make sure they're cool with helping you out.
Well, we have those big carts.
Yeah, we had big rolling carts that we purchased from a friend, and they were like the Home Depot style carts that we would use. We got a couple of those for the markets, and those were busy all day long. Everybody was using them, and we would let our vendors use them so that I wasn't the one having to haul everything out, because we also tried to be in our booth the whole time too. So if I was having to move stuff all over, then it was taken away from things I could sell in the booth or interact with people that had come to see us.
And we would try to have our booth set up before our vendors showed up, because when you have 50 vendors, they need you. And I always wanted my booth to look the best. I didn't want to wait till the last minute. It was my show. So we would set up early, get ours all the way almost done, and then we would help vendors, because inevitably, I don't know if you've ever done a market, but I can tell you right now, you're sleep deprived, you're hangry, and you show up and you don't know what to expect. Sometimes it's first time events. You gotta help these people. So there's a few things we did. Is that we had the carts.
Yeah.
Deb and I would be available to show them where their booth was and answer any questions, make sure our vendors were well taken care of.
So one of the big things that I did before an event even got started was we would go map out the spot, walk it, set up all the booths, measure them out. The floor booths were a little more expensive to purchase, or the spaces. And then there would be tiers. The event we used actually had like a stair type situation.
Yeah, tiered booths.
That were tiered, so those would be a little less, and we would map it out. And then a day before the event started, I would go out there with blue painter's tape and all over the floor, just like measure it out.
And number.
And
I
make
would
sure,
number the booths so they could find them.
Yep, and make sure that everything was perfect. Vendors could see where they were at on the map. People coming to shop could see where the vendors were at, so if they followed on social media,
maps.
They could go and get them and just go straight to their booth. So that's kind of, we always had snacks for our, like a little like break area for the vendors. Because a lot of times people, if you're running your booth by yourself, you don't have anywhere to go. You don't have anywhere to go get lunch unless you brought lunch yourself. And most people are busy and they forget or whatever. Yeah. Some people are organized.
And I've never known anybody to do that. I was trying to think, have we done events? Oh, we did a home show once and they had a snack room. And that's where I got the idea from, because it was so awesome. And so I would spend, I charged a good amount. I think it was like $150 to $200 a booth for these people to be at my show. So times 50, even after the expensive venue fee, I was doing okay. So I would take a couple $100s and go to Costco and pick up water and soda and snacks. And I can't tell you, my vendors were like, nobody's ever done this before. And I was like, really? Because that totally makes sense to me to have food. I'm kind of all about food.
We have a fridge here in the shop that's stocked from Costco for the employees. We have a couple of high schoolers and they come here straight after high school and Jamie's like, they can't be working in my shop hungry.
No, we don't want nobody being hungry.
There's like microwavable macaroni and cheese and chips and water that they can have.
And we have, we also have the fruit, some dried fruit options and some tangerines back there. Yeah, it's important to make sure everybody's not hangry. So whether you're doing a little boutique or a big boutique, make sure that you're taking care of in the food department. If blood sugar gets low, people get grumpy. Grumpy people don't sell stuff. That's important. Now we had a question. Do you have an entrance for the disabled? Here at the shop, it's an old store, so we don't. There's really no way to set that up. When we did a big event, we had, they had wheelchair access because they were ADA certified. This shop is grandfathered in. I do try to keep the aisles as open as possible in here, and definitely for my grand opening. And then we will, Zeb doesn't know it yet, but we will be installing a handrail on the stairs to get into the shop. And if we ever buy the shop, we will be switching where the front door is, and then we'll have more
might be able to put a ramp in.
Yeah, the way it's set up now, it's just not even a possibility. But we will make sure. I noticed I had a customer the other day that was having a hard time getting in, so we're gonna put up a handrail, so hopefully that helps. What's the temperature in Lehigh? Like 60, 70 right now is the high.
The low was 42 and the high is going to be 75 for like an hour or so. We're at that fun fall stage where we've got about a 40-50 degree shift between day and night. But we're in the next couple of weeks, anytime we're at threat of snow.
Yeah.
It'll be freezing in the next couple of weeks.
We sometimes will have snow and Halloween, but a lot of times we have warm weather. So I'm crossing my fingers for warm weather because that will make it a lot easier for us. Somebody said that they're looking to do a boutique at their home, more of a weekend craft boutique. I will have a few pieces I'm making, but we have several vendors. So I did a boutique once at my house. I didn't charge any fee, but we advertised it to our neighborhood, and it actually was really successful. Ahead of time, think about where everybody's going to go.
It was like a glorified yard sale, but not. Like it was organized and it looked good.
Upscale, yeah. Think about where you're going to fit everybody, have hours, and then just advertise it. Make sure they know that it's a smaller event so they know what to expect. But yeah, it's just like doing a big event. You just scale it back a little bit. Make sure you've got good vendors. Make sure you advertise. Make sure you've got snacks for people that are showing up, because obviously you're not going to get a food truck at your house, so maybe some little snacks. And make sure that everybody understands their space. That's really important. If somebody doesn't know how big their space is and you're not right on your measurements, they will get huffy. I actually bought...
That's like the big... One year, Jamie double sold a booth. And man, we were scrambling. We had to give them a space in our booth. Like we had to shrink our size down.
But that was before the market started.
Yeah. The market wasn't going yet.
It wasn't going yet. It wasn't like a last minute thing. But what I did is we invested in, they sell them, they're like little things that you roll it and it counts the feet.
I have it, I'll show them. It's here.
Seb's gonna find it. I gave it to Molly, which is probably why it's here for her events. But here's the thing. I would tell people 10 by 10, and people don't know how big that is. They show up, they're like, this is too small. I would literally walk their booth with them and measure and show them. We had some weird angled booths on the tiers, and people didn't quite understand the size, and I would have to walk that with them. I also made sure everybody knew like how high they could go up, because I never wanted anybody else's booth to be blocked, because people will get really upset about that. So you need to consider, make sure that you have some way to measure it, make sure that it's taped out, and that you have time to walk out space with people if necessary. Yeah, this is our little...
So this is what we use. You roll it and it counts the feet that you're walking. So you can get just exact measurements. We use it here when we do, Molly would use it because she used to do summer markets. We might do something similar to that next summer, probably not this fall.
If we do it, it'll be a one and done. It won't be a multiple.
Yeah, we might make it be like a bigger thing, kind of like our other events were.
Yeah.
And let our neighbors know, hey, there might be like hundreds of people here.
Yeah. Let me make sure. Oh, yep, Zeb is using milk paint. This is pantry door. He wanted something to do while I was yakking. I told him I couldn't work on anything because otherwise I would forget what I wanted to say. But yeah, those things are invaluable if you're doing a big market. But I think
They're like, you can get them at Harbor Freight. They're like $10, $15. This one I think is from Home Depot is like $25. But this one I can definitely tell you is holding up better because I had both, and the Harbor Freight one gave out.
So we get asked a lot, like, what kind of events should people, even if they're not putting an event on, but they're attending an event, what kind of event should they be looking for?
So you want to do like vintage craft stuff, like
if that's what you do.
If you want to do something similar to what you're doing, so let's say you're doing you're baking pies or whatever. There's actually a food con or something. I don't know what to call it. I don't know the exact thing, but they do a home show in the same spot. But they also do it for food and outdoor stuff and spas and all kinds of different things. So make sure you're finding the event that works for your product, so that people that are interested in those things are actually showing up.
Well, and the things to ask the promoter. How are you promoting the event? How many people do you expect to come to the event? When can we set up? How do we get to our booth to set up? That's important. We would have it mapped out where our vendors could go to set up. And I was always thinking the easiest way, and we would sometimes stagger out who would come when, so that way they didn't all show up at once. So you want to know, like, when can I come set up? Where do I park when I do that? Because if it's someplace where you're going to be bringing furniture or something and you have to lug it a long way, that's not going to be a good situation. So always know that. Also, you want to know what are their parameters, like who's actually going to be there. Can multiple people that sell a similar type of thing show up? I never offered any kind of exclusivity, but I always tried to have a good variety and not put two jewelry vendors next to each other. I mean, you kind of want to stagger that out.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I always set up my booth smaller than 10 by 10. That way I could be flexible. Promoters always like that. Flexibility is key.
So on the thumbnail of this, when we announced this, that was a picture I took off of Jami's Instagram. And that was our Queen Bee market. And we had, how big was that space?
6 by 8?
We were planning on a 10 by 10, and it ended up being a 4 by 8 booth when we got there.
No, we knew beforehand.
Did we know?
I found out about 2 weeks before.
So we had short notice that it was smaller than we thought it was going to be. So when we got there, we're like, okay, we've got enough stuff for a 10 by 10 booth, and we just crammed everything in there, and we went up and high, and I think
there was no height restriction. So what I did is I set up my booth, and I had like this ladder type thing, and I put chairs across it.
Yeah, lattice work.
So there was like lattice up there with chairs, and people could see my booth from a million miles away. And the way I staggered the booth was, instead of having walking space, I had tall hutches and a table and a bench, and then I had everything in between. And I just stood in my booth, and if somebody needed something,
that was one of our best selling markets.
Yeah,
and it was the smallest, tiniest booth ever.
We sold like $2,000 in a few days, which isn't a huge amount, but compared to the other vendors, we did really well. And I think it's because we talked to everybody that came by, we promoted the heck out of the event, we made sure people knew we were going to be there, and then we sold stuff.
Yeah, that was down in Vegas. It wasn't even like our stomping ground.
No, it wasn't in our area at all. Do not rely solely on an event promoter to promote you. So make sure you're asking if you can have your pictures on their event page, and then use your social media to help promote what it is that you're bringing. Because I actually had people that came to the Queen Bee market that had no idea what Queen Bee was, but they were my followers, and they showed up to purchase from me. And at the end of the day, when you're not the person putting on the event, you're just the person selling, it's not really in your best interest to care if they buy from anybody else, but you want people to buy from you. So you need to make sure that you're promoting it, so that way people that like what you sell come, or you got more things to paint?
Put those somewhere. I'm gonna paint.
Come to buy.
I'm gonna paint this little wooden
All right,
basket.
I'm kind of running out of things to talk about, so if you guys have more questions. Okay, more lemons.
So on, why don't we talk about like ideas for holiday? Like, we're not gonna get to it this year, but holiday crafts that you can do, like classes. Do you have any ideas on that?
Holiday classes? Well, it depends on what you sell. I think things that people can paint are good. I haven't done enough classes, so you brought that up. What would you do?
So for holiday classes, I always like stuff for like ornaments, small things. I don't really attend these classes, but when thinking of like something that someone would attend, like if I'm going to a class, I don't want to have to be painting like a huge piece of furniture. We taught that one class where people were painting small, we were like, bring a small piece of furniture, so we didn't even have to supply the thing, we just supplied paint and brushes.
And you have to clarify what small is. I said you have to be able to carry it in with one hand.
Yeah.
That, and it has to be able to be painted with a sample of paint. And then people would be like, can I bring this? I'd be like, can you carry it down the stairs into my basement to paint it with one hand? And if they said no, then I was like, nope, you can't bring that.
So things like that, holiday classes, people love ornaments. There's a lot of places where you can procure cutouts. I know Debbie used to just do, was it Debbie that was talking about it? She used to just have like small little block squares that you could stencil or stamp, and those were good. We used the cutout wood pieces a couple years ago. That would be a great little class, like old legs off of chairs that were not savable, cut them down into small little pieces, and you can do ornaments, stuff like that. Just, it doesn't have to be like this huge grand thing that you're charging $100 for. You could do smaller classes and get people interested. And we find that if we're doing the class at our shop, that they'll buy paint or they'll buy other things while they're here at the class. So just kind of outside the box as far as what you can do, just get a bunch of little things going, and it doesn't have to be like a huge major market style event to be successful.
For sure. This is a good one. Janet said, I held an ornament making class. I used Christmas bulbs found at Goodwill, used IOD molds and DIY paint. I did very well with it in August. That's awesome. Yeah, think outside the box. I do like to go to Pinterest for class inspiration, and then I make my own like sample on it. Another thing that Cobweb Afternoon said for a booth said, have candy to draw people in.
And it works.
True that. Make sure though that you don't have stuff that's gonna get sticky and dirty like suckers. It's not a good option because kids come in, at least here in Utah, and then they're drooling everywhere and they're touching your stuff. I've had it happen. I've also had to put like little plaques on things that say, please don't sit on the furniture, because I used to do a ton of upholstery and people would sit on my very light colored upholstery and get it dirty.
It's like drop cloth or a grain sack.
Rachel says, I used to think classes were crazy because you were teaching someone how to do your job. But now I get it. My work is a lot of word of mouth, and I feel like I've proved myself now. For sure. And if you sell the products that you use in the class, then people will buy those products. And there's two types of people. The people that never want to do anything, and the people that are going to look at your stuff and they're going to copy you anyway. So you might as well teach classes and sell the products, so that way you're making money both ways. It just is a good way to diversify.
What is it you call it? Craft lifters?
Yeah, craft lifting. You know, when someone comes in your shop and they got their phone and they're like this, click. I actually had somebody at a booth lift up a bench, click a photo, and put it down. And I walked up to him and said, you want to know how to make that bench? I got a YouTube video. You want to follow me on YouTube? And he was never so shocked because he thought I was coming over there to like be aggressive towards him. And I was like, you're going to take a picture. I'm going to sell to you. I don't know if he ever looked up our YouTube channel, but it was great.
There's a guy similar to that. Like I had a big, long farm table built, and he was like looking underneath it and checking it out. And I'm like, hey, dude, here's the video on exactly how we made that.
And we've got a ton of people that are like, what? You're going to teach us how to do that for free? You know what? I have found that sharing information, if you, like, people ask us a lot, like, how did you guys get successful? How did you grow? And if I could attribute it to one thing, I would think it would be the free open sharing of information. Even before we had a YouTube channel, I would respond to people's comments and help them out and figure out their projects and answer their questions. And I was never usually like super secretive about the stuff we did, because most people, if they really want to find out how you did it, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And when you give, you receive. And so that's always a good thing, to be able to teach people how to do something, help them learn how to create, and there's always something good that comes back. Oh no, Deanna thought it was a 2-hour difference between MST and CST. She could have been watching it from the beginning. Well, we're almost done, but if you go back, you can watch this video from the beginning. How much are your classes going to cost? My classes will probably start at the one that Debbie and I do, because Debbie's coming out here and it's more of a destination type thing. Our class will probably be like $80 or $90 for the class we do together. The classes that I just offer here will probably start at about $50 per class.
Yeah, and you'll get we'll provide with the $50. We always provide like the supplies and things and the actual kit and all that.
Yeah,
like, that's all.
that's like it'll start at $50. To me, it doesn't make sense to do a class for less than that, just because your time is money. And if you think about all the other things that you could be doing with that time, if you could be making more money doing something else, you just gotta make sure it's advantageous. So I did a class for less than that, and I think I made like, I don't know, $150, but it took way more of my time. The prep.
Well, there's a lot of prep. There's always a lot of prep.
Advertising. It's not just the class. It's all the things encompassing the class. So make sure it's a good thing.
Well, so when we would do pinners conferences, we're done with that life now, I think. But I would have to make stuff for every seat that they could potentially sell. Even if the class only had 30 people, if it was a 150 seat room, we had to have 150 of the class item. And I would make 150 candlesticks or
and then we never
150
had
mermaid
show up to our
cutouts.
class.
Yeah.
Pinners asked me if I would do another class, and I was honest. I told them, I said, I'm sorry, I can't commit to making 150 kits when you're not pre-selling 150 seats. And it's a little bit crazy. When you teach at Pinners Conference, you wear like a mic and you're on a stage and you're basically performing for an hour. The actual class itself to me isn't bad, because it's easy to teach 100 people something because no one expects individual attention. They know that it's like a lot of people there. When it's smaller, you have to be prepared to make sure you're really taking good care of your guests. Let's see. What incentive can I tell my shop owner could be for them to let me offer classes? So one thing is higher foot traffic in their shop. Second thing is it's making your shop a destination, and anywhere where people create, it makes them feel good. When people feel good, they shop. So I definitely think it would make sense for them. And also, if you pay a commission, like a percentage of your sales, then just let them know, when I teach a class, I'm going to sell more, and then you're going to make more money. And sometimes, like when I would do classes here, I would give a profit split with Molly. So she would make a portion of the class fee. So you can also offer that as well. What do I use to track my mileage? A notebook. There's a mileage app that you should probably use.
Yeah, there's QuickBooks has a mileage tracker. There's several out there.
Yeah, so this is a good one. I'm not a very aggressive seller either. How do I fix that? I don't want to feel like I'm bothering people. Don't be aggressive.
So I do not like pushy salesmen at all, and I have never been one of those people. You got to ask qualifying questions. Ask them questions about what they're looking for, what they need, what brought them in today. Not like a yes and no kind of answer question, like, hey, what brought you in here today? You can't answer no or yes to that. So once you get them going, get them talking, then you can find out what they're looking for, what they came into your shop for, and then you can also turn that into just casual conversation. If you make friends with someone, they're gonna buy stuff from their friends because now they want to support you because you're their buddy.
And you need to be genuine. Like, I really genuinely like people, so it's easy for me to make friends. Zeb actually worked at Discount Tire for, 12 years?
15 years.
15 years, so
every month we would have trainings, and we would go and we would role play stuff like with each other, like the other guys in my level of seniority. We would go and we would like bounce ideas off each other once a month at the corporate office. And so if you want to pick my brain on that, like I got notebooks full of like how to sell stuff. And you, like Jami said, you have to be genuine. You have to have empathy. You have to care. Some people are going to come in and they're like, hey, I bought your paint and now I painted this and it's all yellow. And just because you've heard that problem with bleed through issue 30 times that week, it's the first time they're having the problem. So you gotta address it like it's a big deal, because it is. And they bought your paint or your product. If you're selling a product in your store, like that happens here. And the same with our website. We have to answer those questions, and it is a big deal to them. It ruined their day, and have empathy towards that and connect with people. I always make it a point to find out the person's name. Introduce yourself, ask their name, find out that. We've been asking a lot of people in our shop, where are you from? Where'd you come from? Because Lehigh it's a decent sized town, but a lot of people are traveling half hour, an hour, or stopping by on their way through Utah from like Denver to Portland. That happened last weekend.
I had somebody in my shop yesterday. She's a follower, and she was here she was from Arizona and the shop wasn't open, but I'm pretty good unless I'm like super crazy busy. If I'm here and I see someone walk by, a lot of times I'll let them in the shop and just say, hey, we're not open, but you can come inside, sorry, it's not perfect, or I'll let them know maybe the lights are off or whatever, but just let them feel comfortable in coming in. But yeah, you just want to be kind to everybody that you meet and be interested in what they're talking about, and like Zeb said, ask the qualifying questions. How can I help you? Are you here looking for something? But don't be pushy and in their face, and follow their body, what's it called? Body language?
Body language.
If they're like this when you're talking to them and giving you a dirty look, a couple questions, move on. But if they're wanting to talk and you see their hands, so when you can watch, you'll see their hands kind of go to the side, which is a universal sign for somebody who's opening up to you, then you can continue to talk and really make that connection with you. But if you see them and their face is closing up and their arms are folded and they're starting to back away from you, that's the point when you just let them do their thing, because nobody wants to, if they just want to come in and shop and not talk to anybody, you need to let them do that too.
Yeah. Also, be an expert in your field. So if people are coming in and they're asking you questions, if you don't have the answer, that's not the best.
Yeah, Zeb used to have on their discount tire shirts, it said like certified satisfaction, and it had like a check mark. I always think about that when I'm doing sales. So this is a good one. Laura says, my issue with classes is how much in supply should I provide? Does everyone get a sample or say a transfer? Do you cut up the transfers? Same with clay molds. It seems like I'd waste a ton of product. So I did my painting class and I let them know that the small project class, they got one sample of paint, which is 8 ounces. If they needed more paint than that, then it cost them extra. And I provided the top coat or the wax to seal it with. But anything above and beyond that one sample was going to be extra. If you're doing a smaller class and people are going to be getting a variety of different things to use, like let's say you're cutting up a transfer, just make sure people know, hey, we are going to have pre-made class kits and we can't exchange pieces. Meaning it's going to come and you have to use what it comes with. Just make sure they know what to expect. Because if you have a sample and they think that they're gonna get all that stuff, and you're not telling them it could be varying depending on the part of the transfer they get, that's gonna make them upset. So definitely control expectations. If you're doing a smaller class, I would say get those class kits set up. We did, when we would do Pinners Conference, we had all the things set out, and we would just have the paint in a squirt bottle, and then we would just squirt it out for them instead of letting them dish their own paint. That will help save them products as well.
And if they need more, it gives you a chance to go back and say hi.
Yeah, exactly. But I would never say don't cater to them, but obviously don't let them open up a whole new transfer because they don't like what you gave them. Just be like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. You know, it says in the class description that it comes with a transfer that you get. But if you'd like to buy one, I can help you come up with that, you know, if it's a smaller class. But a big class, like, let them know they get what's in the kit and that's it, because you will be like a crazy person grabbing stuff for them to use. So I guess it just depends on the class.
So one thing I forgot to mention, so I'm actually fairly shy and not very personable, so it takes a little bit for me to get out of my comfort zone.
You're totally personable.
I have a lot of practice forcing myself to do it until it was almost like second nature. When I first started selling at Discount Tire, I was like at the keyboard, you want those tires? Okay, you can just have these ones right here. Okay, bye. Okay, so I mean, it takes some practice to do it. If you're, that goes back to being an expert in your field. If someone came to me and asked me how to fix a bleed through problem and I didn't know how, then I would be super, super nervous about even interacting with that person. So I've just made it a point to know all that I can about the painting of the furniture, whether it's a product we use or not. We try to know how to fix issues for people. Now, a lot of the products we know backwards and forwards because we use them every day, 10 times a day, but there's always new stuff coming out, new techniques. So always be learning about what you're doing. That way you have that confidence that even if you are kind of a shy person, you can just be like, hey, I know about this, I can talk about it confidently, and that'll come off to people too. And they'll come to trust you and trust your answers.
Well, and if you own a shop, it does make sense to have like quarterly training or whatever. I'm planning on doing it here where we have the ladies come in. Now that they've been working, and Zeb and I can do some role playing, you know, what do we do when this happens? What do we do when this happens? Because you want some consistency in that. I know not everybody has their own retail space, but that is definitely something to keep in mind. And the number one thing that I have told all my employees is that they are family to me now because they're in our brand and I want to take care of them, but I also want to take care of the customers that come into my store. And so above and beyond all else, if they just remember to smile and say hi and greet the people and make sure that this is a friendly family atmosphere, that's like my number one top priority, and it will keep people coming back because everybody wants to go somewhere where they feel loved. And I truly do love my employees, team members, whatever you want to call them. They know that, and I tell them that on a regular basis that they are doing what I can't do for myself because I can't be everywhere, and how much I appreciate them. And likewise, your customers are doing something for you that you can't do for yourself. Your customers are buying. And if they don't do that, then you can't survive. And likewise, if you don't provide a product, they can't have that in their home. So there just needs to be that relationship where everybody feels connected.
Also, be excited about it. I'm actually really excited, shy as I am. You know, I'm good one-on-one. I'm great one-on-one. Large crowds of people, I'm like, oh man, I need to be out camping right now. But I'm really excited about the grand opening because we have all these conversations with people online and we answer questions back and forth. And then they come and meet us, or they come out to things like this grand opening and I get to put a face to the name. And it's awesome. I love it. I love it so much, talking with people and getting to know their stories and where they're at and where they're from and what's going on. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. I love that. I should clarify that I'm horrible with names. Seb is awesome with names. And so
just repeat it a bunch in your
if you
head.
ever meet me, just know that it's possible that I might never remember your name, but only because I can't even remember my children's names at certain times. But know that I love you, and I feel like people get that when they come here. Nothing is more of a compliment to me than when someone says, I went to the shop and I met Jami and Zeb and they were really personable and I felt really connected with them, or you know, they just are real and down to earth. That's my favorite, because the reality is I don't have time to be anybody that I'm not. So at the shop, on camera, at home, when I'm at the grocery store, I'm always the same, and I love meeting people because that's the thing, the human connection. That's what makes it different. That's the human element. That's what makes making something with your hands and selling it so much different than selling something that's mass produced, because in every piece that you do, you're putting a little bit of yourself in there, and that's the same thing when you're meeting people. You're giving a little bit of who you are to them and taking that back. And that's something that there's no amount of money that can pay for. People are dying for human connection. In a tech world where everything's, you know, emailed and texted, there's people that they go for days without talking to somebody, and you never know how what you say and do can affect somebody else. So we love that.
Are there any questions?
You got my crazy last name right the first time. Well, it's Chris DeRoche, like that sounds spelled the way I think I would say it. Let's see. I think everybody said, yeah, they got that. Everybody got their questions answered. Cowboy Afternoon said, you guys are celebrities to us. And you know what? That's something that you guys need to be prepared for. As you grow, people are really going to feel that way about you. It's a little bit awkward the first 2,000 times. I'm still, sometimes people come in and I'm like, well, you know, we all sweat.
I like to tell people I put my pants on one leg at a time this morning.
Yeah, so, but also do realize that you are a celebrity to them and honor that and make sure they feel grateful, or that they know that you're grateful. Sorry, not that they feel grateful, but that you're grateful that they support you, because like I said, if there weren't any followers, there would be no Jami Ray Vintage. So I'm thankful for each and every single one of them. One more question and then we'll head out. I live in a smaller town and have a space that I sell my things at. We do advertisement and all, but we're having a hard time to get people coming to the shop. What could I do to draw people in? Sabrina, one of the things that I would suggest is maybe possibly doing a live paint demo, and so people can watch you paint. And here's the thing I did the other day. We talked about it in our last video, but I needed people to come into the shop, so I literally took a piece of furniture out on the curb because we're on a busy street, and I painted it out front, and I watched people rubberneck for hours trying to see what I was doing. So if you live somewhere or your shop is somewhere where you could go outside and paint, take your stuff outside, get some sunshine if the weather's good, and let people know what you're doing in there, because eventually the word's going to get out and they're going to want to come in and see what you got going on.
Yeah, also, if you are, those people you are getting in the door, make sure they're having an amazing experience, especially if you're slow, because they're going to tell your friends. I mean, that's how we got started, was word of mouth. Facebook was a big part of it, but when we first got started, we didn't, like 1,000 people on Facebook, maybe? That you've been growing for like 5 years.
I don't think it'd been 5 years. It was a couple of years, but yeah, I remember hitting 1,000 followers, and that was crazy. And this is funny. Salvage by K. Scott said it's really awkward when people hug me in the thrift store. Yeah, it's really awkward in the summertime when I'm smelly and dirty and people recognize me at the Home Depot, which is where I don't really care what I look like when I go, or pretty much anywhere in the summer. I'm sorry, I smell like a construction worker, but hey. All right, somebody had a question on furniture. We're not going to cover that now, like on furniture pricing, but that is a good video for the future. Maybe we'll do a walkthrough in our shop next month, and we can show you exactly what all the pricing is and give you an idea of what we sell things for. So if that's something you'd be interested in, is on a video on pricing and profit margin, we can definitely cover that with you guys, and hopefully that'll help you out. All right, love you guys. Whew. That was a lot
Now
of
we got to
talking.
paint more things because the shop opens tomorrow, and we've been selling stuff like crazy.
Yeah, like gangbusters over here. This is the time of year that you got to make money while the hay shines, because it will definitely slow down. So we're going to be busting some stuff out. Bye, you guys. Thanks
All right,
for
catch you
following
later.
us today.
Watch for that chapter. It'll be here in the next couple days.
Tomorrow.
Yep.